Welcome back to your latest aviation news recap. Today there's focus on an airline shutdown, an airline takeover once more, and a European company that has enjoyed a very successful month. Let's begin with an airline shutdown, and any slight glimmer that may have existed for the collapsed Australian airline of Bonza is now non-existent, as the airline's creditors and administrators have voted in favour of liquidation. Bonza collapsed now at the end of April 2024, and hasn't been airborne since. Revelations have since followed about the significant amounts of debt that amounted over 100 million, and obviously the associated difficulties with 777 partners. It had not been the best time for this Australian company, to say the least. Following the collapse, its aircraft were seized and very quickly flown out of Australia, therefore rendering any prospective recommencement of flying certainly impossible, even if the airline wished, because, well, its aircraft were gone. Throughout the last several months, we have heard talks about prospective buyers and your administrators of Hall Chadwick attempting to find someone that would be willing to purchase the company and bring it back to life. And while there were rumoured companies that were interested, nothing fabricated into that firm purchase that Bonza needed. And despite that interest, they said there were also no actual firm offers, which is a telltale sign. After an extensive campaign, it was best deemed that the airline should be closed in the form of liquidation. Furthermore, the sales pitches really focused on not just the company, but also its associated assets held, for which there was also no offer, despite the team at Hall Chadwick giving interested parties all the opportunities to make a formal offer, and something happened. By moving into liquidation, and probably more importantly for the amazing crew that have been now struggling for months, we do see the triggering of the Fair Entitlements Guarantee. Basically, this is a scheme that revolves around financial assistance for employees, and it comes in the form of companies that are reaching this point of insolvency that'll see related employees affected get some respite. The business's employees have probably been one of the larger focuses of the budget Australian Airlines winding down. Yes, while being out of a job, there was much more, including late payments and other related payroll difficulties. And in the state of the world, people need their pay, whether they've got mortgage, kids, or something else. And because of the collapse of Bonza, it threw a lot of people into disarray. Despite Bonza's best attempts at entering the Australian market and saving customers money, its business model was something that was often critiqued by analysts who believed that such an airline wouldn't succeed in the long term. And while it focused on underserved and unserved markets with a fleet of modern 737 MAX jets and a very Australian experience, which honestly many people loved, these planes were acquired during the pandemic, and they flew to cities rather than daily, multiple times a week to meet demand. It was a business model that, while saved hundreds of thousands of customers money on airfares, was something many believe couldn't be sustained, and now they've just become a part of Australian aviation history, and just over a year of scheduled flying later. While its memory and short-term impact will live on, it ultimately will be remembered as another failed endeavour at driving down airfares in what I call my home country. Over to Lufthansa, and in yesterday's video I took a look at their approval of a purchase of a 41% stake, which was valued at USD 350 million in ITA Airways to enhance group connectivity to and from Italy. And in that video, I very briefly mentioned Lufthansa's group continued interest in growing that stake. Something we've known for some time, and it deserves its own segment in this video, because really only shortly after getting this stake approved, the group's ambitions became even clearer, with its CEO stating that a 90% stake is something that could be possible. The comments, thanks to local media in Italy, reaffirm their stance that they see future stake increases in ITA as a great opportunity. While the initial stake is at 41%, Lufthansa Group says that from early 2025, 2025, they can bring this up to 90, and if the move was to be executed, it would represent a majority stake, therefore giving Lufthansa Group the primary control over this Italian airline. But why is 90% touted as the perfect middle ground? Well, it gives them ultimately the control they need, but also aligns with the desires of the Italian government to still have some kind of a stake, even if that only equates to, say, 10% or less, for an airline that, remember, replaced Alitalia. Lufthansa Group believes the acquisition of ITA Airways will be huge for their long-term growth in the European sector. Italy is typically a market that Lufthansa has struggled to grab a hold of amid heightened competition. However, now, having access to ITA and Rome, this is expected to increase and provide greater access to markets right around the world. Interest in obtaining a majority stake in ITA Airways has been a reoccurring theme since 2023, when the group's strategy was to start smaller and work up to a more controlling stake. And now, with the EU approving that first stake after much deliberation, Lufthansa Group will have, yes, the control they need to better assess the airline's performance, including financials. This is because many analysts have expressed some concern about ITA Airways' financial performance and long-term viability, which may deter Lufthansa Group from making its stake a majority. However, now the Italian carrier, which is under the wing of this major group, should see things stabilize considerably. That is because ITA will have access to all the relevant synergies and assets that come as being part of this family. It all should aid the airline's long-term development as a leading airline not just across Europe, but the world. On to another airline in Europe, and that is Norse Atlantic Airways, who have reported a considerably strong start to the summer 2024 season as it announces its June results. The airline says its load factors reflected strong performance thanks to enhanced demand. Load factors stood at 85%, which represented a 2 percentage point increase. Furthermore, they carried 178,000 passengers across 620 flights, but most notably was the lack of charter flights during the month, really highlighting the airline's strong position during the summer to focus on only offering scheduled passenger services. Its rise in passengers represented an 84% jump alongside a 77% jump in flights offered across the month year over year. Apart from really the completion rate, which stayed at 99%, every aspect of the business relating to traffic did see increases. Punctuality was one of the biggest growers, increasing 28 percentage points to 78%, and the airline says that this refers to flights that arrived within 15 minutes of their scheduled arrival. Bumping up on time of performance is a fantastic element of the business to focus in on. ASKs almost doubled, whereas RPKs doubled with 95% and 103% increases respectively. While demand is heating up in time for the warm weather, Norse knows that it also must prepare for the upcoming winter schedule, which will see traffic numbers drop significantly. For this company to successfully sustain its long-term future, it knows it needs to formulate a network or business strategy that sees it have some kind of success during these months, to become not just a 3 to 4 month airline that thrives, but one that is year-round. You can let me know your thoughts on today's aviation news recap down below in the comments. Thank you very much for your support here. Please take care, be safe, and I'll see you same place, same time tomorrow for another industry recap.
And we'll fly.